Hey friends, so for today's project I'm using this picture frame that I got at the Dollar Tree, and it's a square and it measures, I'm guessing, between 9 and 10 inches squared. And so to begin with, all that packing paper that we get with our Amazon orders, I'm just took a piece larger than I need and I'm just scrunching it up just all over the place. And then now I've got it scrunched up well, I'm flattening it out, and I'm going to put some parchment paper on top of that and iron it. So I'm going to flatten it out, but it leaves all the wrinkles, and it's going to be really cute for my project. Just using my little travel iron that I got on Amazon. Works perfectly for these small projects. Okay, now I'm taking the little plastic thing that was in the picture, and I'm going to trace that on the paper, on the scrunched up paper. Then I will cut that out. Okay, so I've got my square cut out, and now I'm going to put Mod Podge on my board, and you'll notice here that I just about put it on the wrong side, but I'm glad I caught myself. So I'm just squirting a bunch of Mod Podge, and I'm just going to spread it all over and make sure I've got every part of the board touched, even the corners and all the edges. Once that is completely covered, I'll use my heat tool and give it a really good thorough dry. Excuse me. These heating tools are pretty handy. You can get them just about anywhere on Amazon, or I believe I got this one on Temu. Just making sure it's completely dry, or close to. So now I'm going to take my Tim Holtz Distress ink in the color Vintage Photo and just a sponge blender pad, and I'm going all around the edges, probably about a ½ inch in, and I'm getting the corners a little bit more than that. And if you don't like that grungy look, then definitely skip this part, but it's definitely what I like, so I almost always do this kind of a look in my projects. So now I'm going to place that on my board on the side of the Mod Podge, and then put some parchment paper over the top of that, and I'm going to iron it on. The heat will reactivate that Mod Podge glue and really get it adhered to the backing. Especially paying attention to the edges and the corners. Even though it'll be in the frame, I don't want those to come loose. Had a little bit that was coming over the edges, so I'm just trimming that off real quick. And then I will set this piece aside for a moment. And I love how that looks. So now on the frame, what I'm doing is I got the paint, but I decided not to do that first. So this is a silicone mold, and I've got different rope shapes, and so I did 4 prior to my video today. And so I've got a total of 6, but it's just hot glue that you put in, and then you let it dry and set up. And then you just hot glue them onto your projects. So it's really kind of cool. You're hot gluing the hot glue piece on there. I'm just going clear around the edges, just giving it a bumpy frame, a little extra decorative piece here, and I thought I'd use my straight edge, but I quickly realized scissors was quicker and easier. So I'm just adhering that with hot glue, going around all 4 edges. And I did put a little bit of E6000 on a couple different spots just to make sure it doesn't pop off like hot glue sometimes does. Now I'm using ink chalk paste by Waverly, and I'm getting the entire frame and all the bumpy ropes in all the crevices and grooves. Just making sure it's all covered. Now this frame is made of plastic, and it's made to look like wood, and then of course the glue beads on top of it. So I can't really sand it to distress it. So after I get all this black paint dry, I get a little bit of white paint on it on a sponge brush, and then I just dab most of it onto my paper towel. So I'm just dry brushing a little bit of the white on top in a few spots and just kind of giving that look that I like, that kind of more roughed up look. So this is Adirondack White by Folk Art chalk paint. So I'm just like you could see there, I just get most of it off on my paper towel, and I'm dry brushing it on in spots. So it accentuates the bumps on the hot glue strips. And I'm getting in various spots around the inside and the outside of the frame. Just looks like it's scratched up, maybe older, a little more vintage. And I really like how it turned out. Now I'm just going to give this a quick little dry. It didn't take too long. So now I will set that aside, and I will work on the inside piece. So I've got these Homewood signs that I got at Dollar Tree. They come in a 2-pack. And so I'm going to paint it Adirondack White. Just making sure the whole top part is covered. And I had a little bit too much on my sponge, so it went over the edge a little bit. So I kind of had to sand a little bit of that off the side of the H. So I've got it all painted. Now I'm just going to lightly sand it and smooth it out, and also rough up the edges a little bit. Then I'll take my Tim Holtz Distressing Oxide again, and we'll go all around the edges, of course, but also on top too, to just make it so it's not so bright white. I really like that look. So now I'm just going to glue it on the center top of my board. And I put some E6000 on in a couple spots, but I really didn't need to. I'm not sure why I even did that. Then hot glue in the rest. Just putting it right there in the center, and I had to stand it up to look at it straight on to make sure it was straight. I've got this wood house, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember for the life of me where I got it. It's been in my stash for such a long time. But I'm using burnt umber apple barrel paint on it and a baby wipe. And it just kind of gives it a more of a stained look than a paint look. I used my heat tool here, but it really was almost dry. It didn't really take much at all. Then I'm going to take the black chalk paint again and just get a little bit and just kind of freehand the roof part on the top there. So I just kind of freehand a straight line across as best I can. It's not perfect, but that was totally fine. So give that a quick little dry as well. And I'll set that aside, make sure it's completely dry, and I'll work on my tag. And it says, is where you hang your heart. Because I've got the wood home sign at the top. I printed this on my computer and just made it say, is where you hang your heart. And I'm really putting a lot of Distress Oxide on. Then I tore off a piece of that paper, the scrunched up paper, and I'm going to put lots of Distress ink on that as well. And then I'll glue it on with some Tombow glue. And then I will trim around the edge, leaving about an 1/8 inch border all around the tag. A little bit more on the one side that I'm going to punch the hole in. And in the very end, I end up changing out the tag, and you will see that at the end, because it ended up being too distressed for me, if you can believe that. It was just a little too dark for my project. And so at the end, you'll see that I changed it out. I redid it and left it a little bit lighter. But for now, we're still working on this one. So I punched the hole in it. Now I'm just going to sand the house and trying to go with the grain and just kind of making it look more weathered and definitely getting the edges. Just wiping all that dust off real well. I'm going to glue that on the bottom right. And this is also something else I change at the end of my project too. I end up thinking it needed to stand out from the backing a little bit better. So in the end, I will change it up a little bit, and we'll talk about that at the end. So now I've got this metal rusty heart. So I'm just tying some twine on the little loop there, the hoop. Now I'm just kind of fraying the end out, just kind of leaving it roughed up there. And then I'm going to trim a certain length. I need to see how long it's going to hang. Then I'm going to hang it from the H. So I'll just cut off the piece that I need, the length that I need. Just hot glue it on there, and then I'll put a bow on top as well. So now I'm wrapping the same twine around my fingers 3 times, I believe, so that there's 3 loops on each side. And then I wrap it around the center 3 or 4 times and cut off the tails. And then I realized I wasn't quite ready to put it on, and I didn't want to lose my bow. So I put glue the tag on where it needs to go. So in the time being, I just kind of set it down and put my scissors on top of it so it wouldn't lose its shape. And I put a little black paint around the edge because I wanted the edge of the tag to stand out a little bit more. So I'm gluing that on first, and then I will put my twine bow on top of that. So it says, home is where you hang your heart. And once that is dry, I stick it in my frame. Get all those glue strings that are hanging in various spots. And like I said, I ended up putting some dry brush and some white paint on the bottom of my house a little bit. And I changed out the tag as well. And you will see that in the very end part of the video here. But I think it turned out very cute. I really like it. And you can see the tag in the house there, how I changed it up a little bit. I thought it stood out a little bit more. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and you have a great day.